Hi everyone, welcome to the Art of Gracious Living. Today we're going to talk about one of my favorite shirt brands that made some of the very finest men's shirts in the United States for many, many years. In fact, over 100 years. And unfortunately are now out of business, but you can still find loads and loads of used, in excellent condition, and new old stock shirts on eBay for really one of the cheapest prices of any major brand. Why is it? It's because F.A. MacCluer was always an almost unknown brand. And as you all know, unknown brands go cheap on eBay. But F.A. MacCluer was nothing cheap about it when they were manufacturing in their Brooklyn factory and then later in their North Carolina factory. They made the finest men's shirts, I think superior to Gitman, but very close. And they retailed them as a white label manufacturer. They were retailed under the names of Saks Fifth Avenue, Neiman Marcus, and Brooks Brothers. Yes, F.A. MacCluer made Brooks Brothers Oxford cloth button-down shirts for decades when the Brooks Brothers products were still made in the USA. So let's take a closer look at some MacCluer shirts, and I highly, highly recommend you go out on eBay and try to find these. As I said, there's lots and lots of new old stock ones, probably because MacCluer went out of business recently. The history of MacCluer began in 1856 when the factory in Brooklyn began manufacturing shirting. The company was named MacCluer in 1922 by Frederick MacCluer, who bought that factory, and almost immediately became known for some of the finest men's shirting manufactured in the USA at the time, and began selling to major retailers such as Brooks Brothers and others, really all through the 80s and into the 90s, until about 1995. In 1995, MacCluer began to try to push their own brand, but were not successful. And they closed their North Carolina factory. They shifted all manufacturing to India and made some very, very nice shirts in India. The made in India ones are definitely worth picking up, but the real premium ones are the made in USA shirts. And unfortunately, that shift to overseas manufacturing was a failure, and MacCluer is essentially defunct. There's been no activity, and the only shirts you can find are new old stock shirts. In fact, McConnell's has an interesting new old stock MacCluer shirt that they've got on their website, but other than that, you're just not going to find them. You might find a few on some fine menswear clothing store websites, but they're all out of stocks. So unfortunately, MacCluer has gone the way of so many other manufacturing in the United States, and particularly hit hard has been the garment industry. So I'm wearing a MacCluer shirt right now. This is called their Royal Oxford. This is a made in USA shirt. It's a wonderful, wonderful summer shirt. It's probably my favorite summer shirt. It's made out of a beautiful, beautiful fabric. They call it the Royal Oxford. And it's 80s 2-ply by 80s 2-ply, which means that both the welt and the warp are 80s, which is the measure of the fineness of the thread. And it's 2-ply, so it's two medium fine threads wound together to give it, although it's very fine and has a beautiful drape to it, it has a more of a Oxford cloth button-down look. It's not a flat weave. It's got sort of a three-dimensional, very characterful weave. And so it's extremely light, extremely airy, and beautiful, beautiful fabric. But it doesn't have that super fine poplin look to it. It's definitely an Oxford cloth. So buy them the way you want them to fit. Again, I always recommend that you get a pit-to-pit measurement. If it doesn't have a ruler or a tape measure shown in a photograph on the eBay listing, email the seller and say, what is the armpit to armpit measurement? That's your most reliable measurement for fit. All right, here's another one. This is a gorgeous, gorgeous shirt. You've seen this before in my Modras video. It's Sea Island cotton, 100% cotton, made in India. But since it's a patchwork Modras, why not? Made in India is no problem there. This is a more recent manufacture. This is an example of their most recent label. It's sort of a dark green and blue. Those are the ones that are going to be made in India. Now, that being said, MacCluer's quality is still outstanding, and the ones that are made in India are not necessarily to be avoided, but clearly they're made in USA. Products are the ones to look for. But if you do find a nice looking shirt at a good deal that's made in India, absolutely go for it. And the Modras, there's absolutely no reason not to get the Modras that are made in India. You will find made in USA with imported Indian fabric Modras made by MacCluer, which I'm going to show you one in a minute. What I want to say about this is, if you have the colorways of your Modras patchwork somewhat similar in tone, they are actually surprisingly not as loud as you would expect. I've had a number of compliments just walking down the street from strangers, and very stylish strangers, complimenting me on this shirt. It's a beautiful, beautiful Modras. Modras is great. And let me tell you another little secret. Modras, and I think this was part of the original design, it hides the sweat stains, or not stains, but the moisture. If you're out on a really hot day and you sweat through your shirt, the pattern and this patchwork does a very good job of hiding the wet patch on your back, on your shoulders, and your underarms. So they're actually a very forgiving pattern for really hot weather and, you know, the natural perspiration that your body goes through. The other thing I really like about this shirt is that it's got a center pleat and a locker loop, which I just love. Locker loop, button in the back, which of course this doesn't have, but those are something that I love on shirts. Absolutely beautiful shirt. I love it. The construction's great, and a super, super shirt. Again, this one was almost brand new. In fact, I think it was brand new. As I recall, it had a considerable amount of sizing still in it, and until I washed it, it wasn't very soft, but now it's soft. I would say for a Modras, it's a medium thickness, as opposed to this next one that I'm going to show you. Now, this is much more of a vintage MacCluer Modras. And this one is what they call mismatch panel. It's similar to a patchwork Modras, but entire panels of the shirt are contrasting fabric. So as you can see, you've got a green and then a blue-green here. There you can see it a little better. A green panel on one side of the front of the shirt, a blue panel on the other side of the front of the shirt. Sleeves are yet again different. Here's the blue, and then this reddish yellow one. And then the back is all one. Incredibly cool look. Again, not terribly, terribly loud compared to some, because the colors are fairly muted, and the mismatch panels are not do not scream at you as you're wearing it down the street. I love this shirt, and the reason is this fabric. This has got to be 120s, which is extremely finely woven, 100% cotton, imported fabric, authentic Indian Modras, which you can see right here, and then tailored in the USA. So this would have been either made in their Brooklyn factory or their North Carolina factory. And then there's the classic tailored in USA F.A. MacCluer shirt makers since 1856 label. So these are the ones, these are the premium ones that I would highly recommend you look for. Center pleat, button down collar, unlined, no fusing whatsoever. A very, very preppy shirt, very traditional. Who knows when this is from? It could have been the 70s, could be the 80s. I tend to think 70s. and just incredibly, incredibly comfortable. And I want to show you one more feature, one more design feature of this thing. The tail is much longer than the fronts by a good probably 3 inches. See how there's this extra length to the tail? This is the front of the shirt. This is the tail of the shirt. So it kind of flows behind you a little bit as you're wearing it in kind of a blousey way. If you leave it untucked, if you tuck it, it's extra, material to make sure that the back stays tucked. But this shirt looks great untucked. I love this shirt. Now a couple of, now that we're coming into the end of the summer, I thought I'd show you these other Made in USA MacCluer shirts that I have. These are more of an autumn or winter cut. They are twill. F.A. MacCluer made a lot of twill shirts. And again, all imported cotton with the classic F.A. MacCluer Made in USA label. Sizing can be a little strange, as I've said before. This is a button-down collar shirt. I've got them unbuttoned, and I do actually haven't worn this yet because it's still summertime here, but I'm really looking forward to it. They made a lot of twills, and they're excellent, excellent quality. Extremely soft, almost a flannel softness, but a much finer weave than any flannel or plaid. Super high quality. Again, great matching on the pocket. Interesting, pseudo horn buttons. Very, very high quality. This has side pleats, which is a very traditional manner of construction. Double needle stitching. A great shirt. I can't wait to wear it. And again, an example of just so cheap. I mean, this was under $20. Unbelievable. And great quality. These were the kind of guys that bought these shirts. Again, they had maybe 80 shirts in their closet. These were expensive. These were very expensive shirts when they were new. And, they weren't the kind of shirt where you wore it every day to work. These were worn once in a while on weekends, periodically, and kept in great shape. And then, for whatever reason, when the estate got sold, the shirts went up and found themselves on eBay. So, great, almost like new. And then the last one I want to show you is, this is a very beautiful shirt. This is, I guess you could call this a flannel. It's not a twill. Very, very soft. I bet this is Portuguese. Well, actually it's not. It's Italian fabric of Italy, and made in USA. This is probably MacCluer International is what that tag says. 100% cotton, made in USA. Again, a large. That's the collar size, but the body is plenty big for a big guy. What I like about this shirt are a couple of design details that are super cool. Twin pleats in the back, on the sides. But look at this pocket, and there's 2 pockets. Almost like a safari look, but not really. Standard button-down, actually not a button-down collar. And these pockets on the sides both have flaps that have no button, which I think is just a really super cool design. All the functionality of a flap, but none of the hassle of fiddling with a button to get stuff in and out of it. Again, it was in great shape. I wouldn't say it was like new, but it was in really excellent shape. Not a stain, not a mark, not a hole on it. And just a great shirt for autumn or late summer and all through the winter. Beautiful, beautiful shirt. And again, sort of a, I guess you could, these might actually be real mother of pearl buttons, but I wonder, I don't think so. But they're very, very high quality buttons, and they've got that sort of brown look to them. Terrific, terrific shirt. Again, I have not worn this yet because it's not really the season, but I think these blue ones, this blue MacCluer International, this was a premium line. I'll bet this was a $300 shirt easily when it was new. And this may well indicate, this color of label may well indicate a manufacturer at their North Carolina factory. But I'm not really sure what the difference in the cutoff between the white and the blue. I think these blue are a little newer and the white are a little older. But more research is necessary, really, for the history of MacCluer. And, of course, now that they're out of business, it truly is going to be a forensic kind of thing. So, beautiful shirt. Go look for MacCluer. Wonderful, wonderful quality stuff. And so, so cheap because nobody's heard of them. So, if you enjoy this content, please like and subscribe. And I will see you soon in my next video. Take care, everybody.